at Smooth 981, and we're streaming live as well on our YouTube channel. So just search for us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Zibby. Good to be with you. Good to be with all our listeners out there for a productive Tuesday.
Productive Tuesday. Did you make that up, Rotus?
Hey, I don't know why Tuesday is supposed to be the most productive day of the week. I thought all the days are supposed to be productive, but we'll take it as it is.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about SMEDAN and 2 million Nigerians, Nigerian NSMEs dying over the last 5 years. Very interesting. So who made this assessment of the NSME death over 5 years at SMEDAN?
Yeah, it was the Director General. And by the way, this is the small and that stands for the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. The Director General Lawale Pasanya. He was the one that made. He was being represented by someone else at an event in Niger State. But yeah, it's his comments that's pretty much making the headlines since yesterday about the number of nano small medium enterprises that closed shop between 2017 and 2021, unfortunately.
So what exactly did he say about the impact of this on Nigerians?
Well, he said about as a result of those 2 million NSMEs closing down, that about 6 million Nigerians were pushed into unemployment as a result of that. That was his assessment as far as the impact is concerned.
All right. Why should we believe this data, though?
Yeah, I know. Because I mean, if I'm going to jump down the throat of Festus Keyamo at the Ministry of Labor and Employment about job creation data, then why should I believe the Director General of SMEDAN about losses? I think if we look at what he's saying, he said about 6 million of Nigerians were impacted. I think the World Bank or the IMF said about 5 million Nigerians were pushed into poverty as a result of inflation over the last couple of years. And then either the World Bank or the IMF, I can't remember, said that about another 7 million or so. Maybe there's an overlap, but it said about 7 million people were impacted by COVID. So the numbers are close to each other, between SMEDAN saying 6 million impacted here, World Bank IMF saying 5 million there. And then SMEDAN is an agency that deals with SMEs. So I guess they would have the data. What I wish was if they would publish this type of stuff on a regular basis so we have access to it.
Right.
But yeah, but the figures kind of tally, or at least are close enough to other, agencies, international, multinational agencies that have said this is the number of Nigerians that are being impacted by the economic situation. So
where exactly did he state this, though?
Yeah, it was in Niger State. There was a what is it now? A empowerment program on shea butter. With the agency in collaboration with the Niger State government. It was in Mina. So, essentially they were trying to, I guess, get more SMEs or NSMEs to get involved in shea butter production in Niger State. So that's where he brought that up. And I think the whole purpose is like, hey, look, we need to empower more people to produce shea butter so that they can fend for themselves and essentially not fall into the poverty trap.
Speaking about shea butter, though, what can you tell us about the industry for that in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think Nigeria is the biggest, if not the biggest exporter in Africa in the world. We produce it in about 20 out of 36 states. There's, I think, Niger State, Oyo, and Kwara, if I remember correctly, are the 3 states that I think have it the most in the most quantities. And essentially, I think Ghana is second place after Nigeria in terms of exports of the items. Now the thing is, they grow on trees. You've got to get the nuts down. You've got to parboil them and then extract the shell, I believe, or flesh of the seeds, and then continue down the production process. But I mean, I'm guessing you use shea butter, yeah, Zibby, or no?
Yes, I do actually.
Yeah. So it's got a lot of use in terms of what it does for the skin. But Nigeria is a healthy producer of it, and my understanding is that we could produce more of shea butter. But there's a few things, I guess, some hindrances for the industry.
Okay, so what is holding the industry back?
So I think it's a very labor-intensive process to produce it in terms of getting the nuts, the amount of time it takes to parboil them, strip them of their flesh or their shell, and then now, I guess, mash up the shell and then, heat it some more and then produce it. The production process is very labor-intensive. And then from the research that I've seen, accessing the trees where they are grown is an issue, because during the rainy season, the road access to where the trees are it's not pliable. So they basically need more investments in the area of being able to access these trees that grow the nuts that are used for shea butter, and then more investment from governments in order to boost their exports. But the issue though is just they need better technology in order to be able to agri-tech. We need more agri-tech investments in order to produce them. But even before you can to produce them faster, to reduce the time it takes. And then there's also the access to getting your hands on them. So between getting access to them is one, faster production, two, because I understand that they're a real wealth generator for the communities where they are located, which again is about 20 out of the 36 states.
Okay, so coming back to the figures from SMEDAN, what does this death of millions of these NSMEs actually mean, particularly for the next administration?
So I think the next administration is starting from a negative position in terms of job creation, because if you've lost it, I mean, you have to think about it. For you to get from negative, you have to put in effort to go from negative to get to zero, and then from zero to go to a positive figure, right? So I'm going from -5 to 0, and then from 0 to +5, or even -1 to 0, and then from 0 to +1. So with SMEDAN saying this many jobs have been lost, with the World Bank, IMF saying so many people have been placed into poverty, you now have to put in extra effort just to recover what has been lost before you even get to the point of now creating more. So you've got we didn't even have that many jobs to begin with. A lot of them were lost. You now have to put in so much effort and money to recover those lost jobs, get people back to work. And then you now want to, when you get to par, when you get to 0, you now have to put in more effort to create new jobs for even more people. Because again, you've got a labor force that is producing 3 to 4 million new entrants per year. And so many people that can't find work, they're going into business for themselves, going into trading, going into all these things because they can't find gainful employment. So it's a long road for the next administration in terms of that aspect.
Okay, just before I have another question for you, but I want to read this message from Benito, and he says, Netherlands is really helping out here in Nigeria for agri-tech production augmentation and automation. With solar light for water irrigation and seedlings, we need to massively move in this direction.
Agreed. I agree.
So, still on the subject of the NSMEs, what do you think the next administration can actually do to revive them?
Well, I mean, see, we talk about this stuff all the time. You've got to make the investments in making their lives easier. And to make an investment, a serious investment to make someone's life easy, you've got to spend money. And unfortunately, Nigeria is just known for diverting funds towards other practices. How is it that, politicians have so much money to conduct elections, and yet there isn't enough money to channel towards these entrepreneurial entrepreneurial processes. So you got to spend the money. You got to get that money over to, like, for the shea butter industry, making sure the road access is there, faster
Right.
processing. Yeah, so that's where you got to go.
All right. Ogenia Chico says technology should be applied in harvesting shea butter. In addition, transport of the product should be enhanced. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see. I'm just trying to see. Don't forget, you can reach out. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at smooth981. Now, Rotus, what about the challenge of the informal sector and tax collection?
Yeah, so that's another issue, and I think maybe we'll get more into this tomorrow. But Kingsley Moghalu, former deputy governor of the CBN, was pushing back against the IMF, saying that taxes need to be raised in Nigeria. He was saying that you need to widen the tax bracket. So if I'm in the informal economy and you, Zibby, are formal, and let's say we're only two businesses in the entire Nigeria. So 50% of the businesses, that is only Zibby, is paying taxes in the formal sector, right? I am in informal sector. I'm not recognized. I'm collecting money with my business, but I'm not paying. So how do you get me into where you are? So you've got to incentivize me. You've got to make sure it's easy for me to register my business formally, and you've got to just basically make the environment, conducive enough. So that has been the debate for Nigeria, whether or not, although our taxes are low though in terms of like VAT. VAT in other countries are in double digits, like South Africa's of the world, but we are still at single digits, I think 7.5 or so. So yeah, there's an argument to raise taxes, but first, because of the large population and the fact that the informal sector is so large and accounts for so much of the economy, you've got to find a way. And when I say informal sector, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Your vulcanizers, your akara sellers on the side of the road, all these folks that are not actually recognized. Although in Lagos, I hear that the agberos and the touts are really good at collecting money from these people, but that money doesn't reach the states. But I guess that's a discussion for another day. So either way, you just got to make the industry or make the business environments more conducive to be able to convert folks in the informal sector into the formal sector, so you can now collect taxes from them.
All right, I've got a message from Gilbert, and he says, for SME growth in Nigeria, we need to ensure players in that industry get apprenticeships training regularly. And Ehe says, I don't think expanding the tax brackets is the issue. I think it's formalizing the taxation. The Agbero tax sometimes is just as much. And Jonah from Isolo says, the informal sector are paying taxes though, just not to the government, to non-state actors. And Ogene Ochuko says, all the VAT for the formal sector can see such impact on the citizens.
Good points. Right. Good points from everybody. Good points from everybody as usual. Thanks to everyone for their messages. Really appreciate it.
And that's all the time that we have for Business Express. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And thanks, Rotus. Have a brilliant day ahead.
See you tomorrow.
Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
Brought to you by Enter